This episode is brought to you by 5280 Magazine, because their awesome brunch event is right around the corner. It's on Saturday, March 29th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Asterisk. Get your tickets now, and you can look forward to sweet and savory brunch menus from the likes of Urban Egg, Sullivan's Scrap Kitchen, Snooze, Denver Biscuit Company, #Denver, and so many more. I mean, I love pancakes. I do like Snooze. Their pancakes are not overrated. They're delicious. This big old brunch party is selling fast, so get your tickets before they sell out. Did you have something to say about brunch, Olivia?
Juice in a fun glass.
Juice in a fun glass. That's what this girl's looking for. For more info and to buy tickets, visit 5280.com. That's 5280.com. Today on City Cast Denver. The Bernie AOC rally brought thousands of people to Civic Center on Friday, but just how many folks were really there? Producer Paul Caroli and I talk crowd sizes, plus one of the legislators behind the tipped minimum wage bill gives us an exclusive spicy take, and after his appearance on the show last week, Friends of Illegal Pete's CEO Pete Turner go on the defensive. Today is Tuesday, March 25th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hey, Paul.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How was your last few days? I always want to say weekend, but it's already like Tuesday, so that sounds weird.
It was fine.
It was fine.
Yeah. My wife is away, so I'm living alone in the studio apartment downtown.
Oh, I mean, honestly, my husband is back after 3 weeks on the road, and I did enjoy a little bit of the alone, although I'm never truly alone. I have a toddler asking me questions 24/7, so
yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the silence.
Yeah, it's been okay.
So before we get into the news, we have our segment, Paul Correctly.
Yes.
Do you want to share the correction?
Sure. Yeah.
This week?
Happy to. I made a mistake last week on the Friday show. We were talking about local congressional representatives and how they've been voting on Trump's projects and various proposals. And I said that local Congressman Diana DeGette, who represents Denver, as well as a couple of other Democrats from around Colorado, Joe Neguse and Jason Crow, had voted to censure Al Green, the Democrat from Texas, who interrupted that speech Trump did a couple of weeks ago. And I was wrong about that. I misread the Denver Post's vote tracker. And in fact, they voted... It was more about a procedural thing, and it was just like, oh, they voted to table the motion to. No, those were all party line votes. They did not break with the Democrats on that.
That makes
my mistake. Sorry about that, everyone.
Well, thank you for correcting that.
That's sure.
Helpful.
The truth matters.
Yes, absolutely. Well, speaking of the Democrats, there was a rally.
Big rally.
Went to
Friday afternoon. We were there. We've been talking about how Denverites are fighting back against Trump in a million different ways. A bunch of them showed up to Civic Center Park on Friday to hear what Senator Bernard Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had to say. They brought their Fighting Oligarchy tour to Denver. We were there. What did you see?
I have to say the crowd skewed a lot older than previous Bernie rallies I've been to. So that was my first observation. Second observation, the music was not good.
You didn't think the music was good?
It didn't.
Oh man, what was that band?
No, I mean they were fine.
I thought they were awesome.
They were good, but it didn't feel like the right. It wasn't enough energy. Like you're trying to get people up on their feet. You know, like it wasn't a rallying cry kind of music. It was beautiful, but it didn't. It was like there was gospel singers, and then,
the gospel I didn't like. I like the band that I just pulled up their name, but I'm not going to pronounce this right.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
I was going to say
Quetzalcoatl?
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to butcher it either.
I'm not going to say
I think they were great. It just like, I was expecting something a little more raw. I mean, they were playing Rage Against the Machine while we were there.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe
Rage
was
is
more...
cool.
No,
that's Bernie's vibe.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's the vibe. This was not that vibe. So I just have to say, it just like felt a little low energy.
Oh man, I had a totally different impression. We were at different parts of the rally. I was more in like I was like right behind the stage off to the left, which I realized only after I had like weaseled my way in there that I was in like the VIP/disability seating area.
Oh.
But it was interesting. It was a good view.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I thought the band was great.
Right.
Huge pop for the land acknowledgement. I've never seen a bigger crowd response for a land acknowledgement.
Yeah. I mean,
But people were psyched at the Bernie rally.
yeah. No, I mean, the energy was there. I was just saying the music didn't bring it up more than usually I expect. I feel like Devotchka was the band I saw before, and it was just a little more rockin'. But
So older crowd was one takeaway for you.
Mhm.
You didn't like the music.
it just didn't feel right. But yeah, it was just it was an interesting crowd compared to what I've seen before. And I have to say, on social media, on the social media side of things, the very progressive folks were not there, and they were very vocal about not being there. So
At the Bernie rally?
absolutely, I think folks
Was Bernie too far to the center for these folks?
no, I think the general sentiment was the disillusionment with the Democratic Party over how Bernie was sort of handled before, and it was like, oh, you want to show up for Bernie now, kind of thing. It was really interesting.
So they were mad at the other people who were attending?
Oh, absolutely. It was a lot of
the
too
left
little.
is so
I know. I'm not saying anyone is right in this situation. I'm saying this was the tenor of the conversation online versus what I saw there. So it was just
Interesting.
really a different kind of Bernie rally than I've ever been to.
Huh.
So, but a lot of folks were there. How many? We don't actually know.
Did you have a guess?
No, I've never been able to guess crowd sizes. I can't guess jelly beans in a jar. I could not tell you.
No, I think it's really hard to do it well. Because we were asking people at the rally. I asked probably like a dozen people, and they were like, 10. One guy was like 1 million.
But it was amazing when you looked across. It was a weird positioning too. Like they weren't set up in the Capitol. They weren't with the Capitol in the background. They weren't with the city and county building in the background. They had the McNichols building in the background, which was a strange.
Yeah, I've never seen a stage put there in the Civic Center Park before.
But what was cool was when you looked over at the city and county building, those steps were full of folks that couldn't get in because the line was so long. So
yeah. Although I talked to Vince Chandler, who's like a longtime journalist and now like more into politics, and he was like, he's planned rallies like this, and he's like, look at where they put the fences.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell a lot about expectations around rally size based on what they fence off and what they don't. Like
and
here, they fenced off
the amphitheater.
They fenced off the amphitheater. They really had it was kind of like a segment of the park, but it was jam-packed, that segment.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, it's all an expectations game, and it's part of the politics game.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that narrative forms, because even they were doing it at the rally. Bernie and AOC were both like, this is the biggest crowd. Although I don't think Bernie said that. I think AOC said, this is the biggest crowd I've ever spoken to.
Bernie's social media said that later.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, this is the biggest crowd we've ever had.
Interesting.
And estimates were at around 34,000 is what I was seeing.
Some estimates.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is what's been reported.
I've tracked this. I followed this. I don't have an answer because I don't think there is an accurate answer. I would have loved to make my own count. I now want to talk to an expert on counting crowds because I want to be able to do this well because it's getting weirdly political. But Westward says 30,000. That was in their headline. CPR said more than 34,000. So they basically took the AOC Bernie figure because that's the number that both of them were posting about. I saw some people on Reddit talking about 30,000. And then here's what I did. I emailed the actual organizers of the rally because when I got in, I walked into the rally past the security and I was like, I got to talk about the vote count because I could see people flicking on their phones. They were counting each person that walked in. So I was like, oh, you're already doing it. I want to learn about this.
Oh,
and
they were counting at the door.
Yeah. And I said, who do I talk to? And they were like, Brian. And Brian was like, you talk to Sarah. Sarah's the organizer. Sarah's the person. Just ask her after the rally how many people were here and she'll tell you. And what I did, I got the answer Saturday. She says, this is Anna Barr from the Bernie Sanders campaign. She says, quote, more than 23,000 people were at today's rally. It's the biggest political rally in the state's history.
Really? 23,000? That's it?
Yeah.
For the biggest in the history of the state?
I mean, who knows? Is she fact checking this or are they just telling a story?
Small to me.
Kind of does feel small. For reference, we looked this up. The Colorado Avalanche Stanley Cup parade from a few years ago, 500,000 people flooding downtown Denver.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I mean, for a sports rally, that's way more. Yeah. Also, there's like a parade route and there's like more space.
It's all over the city too. This is just
This
Civic
was
Center
just a
Park.
section. Yeah. But I mean, I agree with you. Like the fencing placement and the amount of porta potties they have and the amount of police they probably brought in and stuff is based on some estimate. So.
Yeah. I'm desperate to know how they figure this out because you see the conservatives complaining about it too.
Oh yeah. That's what I think. That's what you mentioned earlier. The political nature of the count.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
why is this political? Like, what are people pulling out of it?
Well, you want to, if you have a big rally, if it's the biggest one ever, you look good. People want to hear your message. Then you can tell that story, and people want to get involved with a movement that's growing.
True.
That's the exciting part of politics. You feel like you have influence and power with side. Yeah. Anyway, so the conservatives were all like, no, it's not 34,000. That's crazy. There was Do Better Denver, the local like Instagram cranks. They quoted this other guy who's like got no qualifications on X. And he was saying GPS, he said, there were 20,189 devices, still a large crowd, but not even close to the 30,000 quoted in Denver newspapers. And I don't know where he's getting this data. GPS, I guess, for like phone devices. I don't know.
I know. I was like,
where is this coming from?
It kind of reminded me, though, of like some of the cardinal rules of like the longtime protesters I know is like, turn your phone off. Don't bring it if you don't have to. Like,
do you think they can't track your phone if you're?
No, I'm saying
like
if you don't bring it. They're saying like, don't bring your phone. Is one I've heard before too, and this makes sense as to why.
Well, geez, if they're tracking crowd size based on phones present, I would say bring 5 phones.
It's true. Bring all
10.
your burner. Bring all your burner phones. All your alternative economy phones. I got 2 phones.
Invite your drug dealer friends to tell them to bring all his phones.
Mine are retired. Okay, and they had pagers.
Would you get a count for a pager if you bring it to the park?
God, I wish we would go back to pagers, Paul. It was a way better time.
I bet you were big into pagers.
I had a pager in high school, of course.
Did you have any? What was your like? Do you have a personal message or like a?
Well, my pager code was like if I paged you from a number you didn't know, I would follow it with 1415, and then you'd be like, "Oh, that's Bree," and then you'd call that number. 1415. Well, that was the last 4 digits of my home phone number growing up. So.
I was hoping for some kind of secret
code. No, that's just like my family's code for everything. So break into whatever. That's our code. I don't know. The devices thing is interesting, and just the arguments over the amount of people. Overall, it was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people.
It was a huge rally. It was definitely probably the biggest rally I've been to in Civic Center for sure.
It was bigger than the Trump rally in Aurora.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say,
there's only 10,000 people.
You went to that one too. Yeah, how did these compare?
Very interesting comparison.
What did you see? What stuck out to you difference-wise? I mean, obviously other than political affiliation.
The Trump rally had protesters, liberals who showed up dressed with body pads and like sports gear and showed up for a fight. And the MAGA people gave it to them. Sure. Lots of screaming, spitting in faces, very aggressive. No violence. No protesters at the Bernie rally. Didn't see anything. Mostly a party vibe. But I do think the Trump rally had more of a party vibe as well.
It sounded like more of a tailgate.
It was a bit of a tailgate. There was folks with cases of beers and White Claws and stuff, and they were partying and having fun. Some people didn't make it into the event.
Sure.
Party too hard. Bernie rally, didn't see any of that.
No.
Did see a lot of like vaping and sort of like clouds of weed smoke.
Yeah,
but
I smelled a lot of weed.
Even that, not as much as I was expecting.
Really?
Because that rally was happening at 4:20 on Friday after a long week.
I was going to say, it was just outdoors too. Which is just a free-for-all for folks.
My last take on this is AOC should have been closing.
You think?
Bernie went last. AOC opened for Bernie. Mm-hmm. I think based on the crowd, based on the pops that I saw from what they had to say,
were really
AOC should be headlining this tour. It's time. Make the swap, Bernie.
Yeah, and I think that was sort of a question for folks was like, it's not like Bernie's running for president.
Exactly. She's the star now.
Clearly...
Give her the focus. I mean, this is not my political opinion. This is my theater analysis, my political theater analysis. Mm-hmm. She should be closing the show.
Yeah, I could see that. I think he's obviously just a draw. He's a draw no matter what, but she's maybe the sparkling element, more of interest. Like we know, I mean, I love Bernie, but I know what he's going to say. Yeah. And he says the things that resonate with his folks, but she definitely went a little spicier for sure too. Well, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm just interested to see what happens now. I think a lot of the folks this time around, I'm seeing folks at rallies I've never seen before, like in my family and friend group. So it's definitely energizing new folks that have not been involved in more progressive causes before. So even if my far left friends weren't there, some of my more center left friends have become more engaged. So it was interesting. Yeah. This episode is brought to you by bookshop.org. Whether you're searching for an incisive book that helps you make sense of this moment, a novel that sweeps you away, or a perfect spring break read, bookshop.org has you covered. When you shop at bookshop.org, you can choose an independent bookstore right here in Denver to support directly with your purchase. Just pick your fave. Feel good about buying books online with bookshop.org. You'll know that your money is supporting your local community, and you'll be helping indie bookstores continue to foster culture, curiosity, and a love of reading for generations to come. Use code CityCast now to get 15% off your next order at bookshop.org. Well, I have been reading the Kathleen Hanna autobiography, and the section about her relationship with Kurt Cobain was like so sweet and so poignant. It just like made me so happy. I didn't hear the whole story of their friendship before that book, and it was really lovely to read. But it is a really sad book, and I'm having to read it in sections because it's brutal. But it's beautiful. And check our show notes to find bookshop.org's bookstore map, and don't forget the code CityCast for a bangin' discount. Just waiting to get to the part where she marries Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys. Amazing.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
It's that time. It's Tuesday. We hear from our listeners. We love to hear from you about past episodes, what you're thinking about, what you're feeling. And we actually got a text recently from an elected official. Paul, do you want to read it?
Sure. So this listener writes, "Hi, my name is Alex Valdez, and I'm the representative for downtown and central Denver for the past 7 years." He's talking about the state legislature.
Okay.
Alex Valdez
Yes.
is a representative in the state legislature. He says, "I enjoyed the Councilwoman Parody's segment last week about her big wins on the tip wage bill." He's referring to my conversation with her last Tuesday, where she shared her criticism of the proposal to lower the tip minimum wage. Her preference would be to eliminate the tip minimum wage and have one fair wage for all people. Valdez is one of the sponsors of the bill to lower the tip minimum wage. Okay. Interesting that he would be responding, but grateful that he chose to reach out to us. Oddly, Alex says, "I have never spoken to Councilwoman Parody about the tip wage bill or any bill ever. The amendment run in the Finance Committee was to eliminate the fiscal impact, not because of the vile, profane attacks from the opposition."
Ooh.
And that's just the start. He goes on, "We had the votes to pass an actual relief bill, which to him would be like compelling restaurants to lower the tip minimum wage." Mm-hmm. Now, the current draft, which is in front of the House, is giving local municipalities the option to lower their tip minimum wage, not force them. Anyway, he goes on, "It's important for our restaurant operators to know that, especially those who are going to close in the next coming weeks and months. Others will wisely move away to the suburban cities that will use local control and fix the tip wage issue. Boulder and Edgewater are both ready and waiting to take action and literally eat our lunch. Ooh. It's a win for everyone but Denver," he says about the changes to his bill. And then, wow. "We can only thank Parody for her help ensuring we continue to be a model of progressive failure."
Whoa. That feels like rhetoric from the other side. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a little pointed. I mean, Valdez, I think, would be more of a center left.
Okay.
Parody more of
compared to Parody. Yeah. Sure.
He goes on, "Speaking as a Denver resident, we need more thoughtful leaders, people who emphasize that they see the problem and who are committed to fixing it. People who understand that we are losing restaurants and the very jobs our workers depend on, and we are losing the jobs quickly. The views of Parody, who was elected with 16% of the vote, should only serve to bolster Denverites' assumption that our government is completely broken and incompetent.
Whoa.
She is actually suggesting Denver adopt one fair wage now? This can't continue. Denver is an economic mess. As someone who is elected with 79.6% of the vote, I'm happy to join you to discuss issues downtown Denver faces anytime."
Okay, percentages wise, like, let's be honest, these are kind of apples to oranges. Like,
I would say so, yeah.
She's running for a city council seat.
And she's running for an at-large seat against a lot of different candidates, more than a one-on-one race.
That he was probably running. Yeah. So that's interesting. I mean, I'm just thinking about the folks that I've seen most vocal about this issue, which are restaurant workers not being in favor of this bill. So
A lot are. Some are in favor of it, though. We heard from that one guy who works at Garden Grace, makes 6 figures, says the servers need to step up their game.
Once this was
restaurants to be great.
That.
I know, it's so crazy. Everyone's got their own opinion about tipping and wages in restaurants. It's weird.
Yeah, well,
it's a weird thing that has been exposed through this very passionate debate.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it for months. It's an issue. What's interesting to me about his commentary is how he's putting it in context of like what he sees us losing, which is we're losing to the suburbs, which is, again, also I would say a narrative of more folks on the right. Like Denver's a toilet bowl.
Sure.
I'm going to the suburbs.
Yeah, I had the same thought. I was like, this is part of the same conversation of Republicans crapping on the cities, and maybe a different way of talking about that conversation, the national conversation around cities and liberal leadership. And maybe we're in the other side of a cycle and should be thinking more about supporting businesses and deregulating. This is a big idea that like Ezra Klein has been pushing in the New York Times a lot lately, like taking a more of a pro-supply, pro-density, pro-business perspective as Democrats in order to have some kind of new idea that could win back the working class.
I just struggle with this because this narrative just does not resonate with the experience I have in the city. So I constantly am like, I was at a busy...
You personally?
Yeah, like when I'm out in Denver, I don't feel unsafe. When I'm out in Denver, the restaurants I've been to, I was at MacFam a couple of days ago. That place was like out the door busy.
Yeah.
Service was...
the hottest restaurant in town.
Service was incredible. Like, but also that's the same for the regular restaurant we go to in my neighborhood, Torres. Any night of the week, there's a wait. So this is just an interest. I'm just still trying to wrap my head around this narrative that I've just not seen in real life.
Well, that's when it gets tough, is because you reach for the numbers and some kind of quantitative way of analyzing this thing that these restaurant owners are talking about. And it's just more complicated. The numbers are all so difficult and contested. Yeah,
absolutely. So, well, it was nice to hear from an elected official.
It was. We should talk to him sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. We've never had him on, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks for reaching out, thanks. Representative Valdez.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your comments. We'll make sure Councilwoman Parody hears them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're listening.
Maybe she'll have a response.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person. And not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit ServiceNow.com.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
We have another comment on a topic, a show that we got a lot of response on.
A real hot topic.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to read one of the comments we got. Again, you talked to Pete Turner, the man behind Illegal Pete's.
Mm-hmm. He's not Illegal Pete, though. We didn't talk about the whole illegal thing. I think it's his dad. He has some sweet story about why he calls it Illegal Pete's that doesn't have anything to do with immigration. We'll link to the article. There's a New York Times article about it.
So yes, anyway. You talked to Pete Turner.
Yes. About why people say the restaurant is bad now.
Yes. And the other thing was this also sprang out of a Reddit thread where folks were sharing their grievances and experiences working there, eating there, managing or, serving there. It was really interesting. And
many threads. Yeah.
And so we brought that conversation to in person with Pete Turner himself. Jenister on the City Cast subreddit said, dissenting opinion here, but I actually really appreciated how normal Pete sounded on this interview. He was honest and transparent, but also wasn't afraid to put up a boundary with Paul on his homeless idea. Quote, or parentheses, great journalistic pushing through, Paul, you tried. I'm tired of hearing PR polished people regurgitating pre-planned responses. I've never been but I'll be making an effort to try them now. So this is a person that's never actually even been to Illegal Pete's.
Yeah.
I found this comment interesting because we have this conversation a lot as journalists, is when we see someone or read quotes from someone and we go, oh, they don't have any PR training. And this person is saying, maybe PR training is not what I want to hear as a consumer. Mm-hmm. What did you think? I
respect Pete a great deal for how he showed up to that interview and how he talked like a real person.
Like a real person.
I mean, the responses to this show have been eye-opening. There was, I would say, the vast majority of people kind of came away from it thinking that he was a dick or saying that like he sounds like a dick. Mm-hmm. But there were some people like Jen Aster here who, like, I would say a small minority, but had this very strong reaction in the other way of like, man, this sounds like a business owner who's been really going through some hard stuff. And like, he's been pushed maybe to his limit. And I mean, that's what I heard in the interview. I heard some other stuff too. I mean, but you know, people are going to have their own opinions about it. But yeah, I mean, on this point of like showing up as a person and being candid and honest, like I think he deserves huge credit for that.
We have another text from someone just labeled Pete Turner's friend. Just listen to the Pete Turner Illegal Pete's episode. I've known Pete for many years and can say wholeheartedly that he is one of the best human beings I've ever had the honor of calling a friend. Wow. That being said, this interview felt like an absolute ambush from the start. The interviewer immediately came off as snarky, condescending, and aggressive and continued to do so throughout the interview. Illegal Pete's has been a Denver staple for 30 years, provided hundreds, if not thousands of jobs, and has been a respite for Colorado residents as well as countless other community inputs. If the goal of this podcast is to tear down Denver businesses, their owners, and undermine their existence, then job well done. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. Just another example of people that contribute next to nothing to society having access to a microphone and the internet. Hand clap emoji or maybe a hand wiping away emoji.
I think it's a clap.
It's a clap. Okay, yeah. They clap for themselves. Paul, you are the interviewer here in question. What do you, I don't know. I mean, I know how I would respond to this. How do you feel? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I appreciate the feedback. That's what I think. Mostly, always. I always like hearing what people think about the stuff that we put out in the world. Even though you've contributed next to nothing to society and have access to a microphone and the internet. They make it sound like we're an underground, like this is like Pump Up the Volume or something. Like, you also have access to the internet and a microphone. Yeah. Well, now you do.
People are listening because they care and they want to hear.
I mean, I don't know about, I just wonder if this person has listened to any other episodes, I guess would be my takeaway from this.
I don't know. But I think Pete maybe suggested, I don't know how Pete reacted. I know he sent me a couple of emails the day the episode came out.
I feel like he was very communicative with you.
Yeah, he had some criticism, but honestly, like, y'all heard the interview. I stand by it 100%.
Well, we appreciate hearing from everyone. You can always give us a call, 720-500-5418. Tell us what you think about an episode. You can ask us questions. Again, it doesn't matter how old the episode is. If it was something you listened to recently that we recorded 6 months ago, we still want to hear from you. Again, that number is 720-500-5418. That was just the tip of the iceberg, I feel like, of the Pete comments. We got a lot of response to that episode, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll talk about it more at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Paul.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
That's all for today here on City Cast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell Representative Alex Valdez about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See ya. Podcasters, contributing next to nothing to society. Oof.